Welcome to the Full Nelson. Today I'm going to be giving you an overview or doing a brief review on this Wiha brand of screwdrivers. This specific pack I bought is off of Amazon, and you can get it other places too, I believe, but this is like their demolition or their chisel driver, or there's a bunch of names that people use for this type of screwdriver, but they're the ones that have the shank that run through the handle and interface with the striking cap. If you're like me, you probably use a flat-bladed screwdriver as much as a chisel or to pry things or pop things open as you do to turn fasteners. I don't do that with my Phillips head or any of those because, it'll damage it to where they're not usable. I've never had a problem doing anything like that with my flat-bladed screwdrivers, and they get used that way all the time. I feel that that's almost what flat-bladed screwdrivers were invented for, which will make some of you purists out there sick, but that's just how I feel about it, and that's the way I use them. Apparently, Wiha agrees, or some other companies at least could see the merit or the use case scenario for some of that, and so they've started developing these demolition type, chisel type screwdrivers that are designed to be beat on. When I saw that, I decided I was going to upgrade from some of my old sets of screwdrivers and bought a variety of different sets, and I'll be comparing those in the future, but for today I'm just going to walk you through the pros and cons of this set that I bought. One of the pros is that they are all very well built, super heavy duty. This screwdriver here, words just can't describe how heavy this thing is. I ought to put it on a scale or something. I bet this screwdriver weighs over a pound. It might weigh close to 2 pounds. I don't know. It is a heavy screwdriver. And to give you an idea, size comparison wise, I've got, let me come over here and grab this. This is a Vessel brand, and I picked that up too. And that set doesn't have quite as many sizes, but look at the size in terms of the shanks of these screwdrivers and the head of these screwdrivers and the width of these screwdrivers. This sucker here is a chisel. I mean, I don't know that that's flat-headed screwdriver, but this is the deal, that you reach for when you're going to be prying on something and you need something that's a little bit smaller or has some length or whatever instead of your typical chisel. I'd grab this in a heartbeat, and you'd be very hard-pressed to bend this, in my opinion, looking at the size of that. So anyway, yeah, that's just for comparison's sake. This thing is a monster screwdriver, which everybody ought to have one big monster screwdriver like that in their set that they can use for some of that harder use. Taking a little delicate screwdriver like this and using it that way, I wouldn't be doing that. I'm not going to be reefing on it or bending it. Now, I might tap it with something to get into something small to pry something open or whatever, but, I'd much rather be using something bigger whenever that can be done. Anyway, so the build quality of these is exceptional. One thing I looked at in other videos and other reviews I read that I was like, man, I don't know about that, was the handle design. I mean, it looks like you got this big old glob here and then it gets narrow over here, and I thought, man, I don't know if I like that handle design. And when I first got it, I put some pressure on that, and I thought, man, I was like, I don't know if that feels really comfortable or what. But I'll tell you something that I've observed with these handles, which is they might not be the most comfortable, especially like this Vessel brand. I think this is a more comfortable handle. However, if I hook this up to something to really put some torque on it, I can almost guarantee that I would be able to put more torque with this handle than I would this because of the larger circumference. And you can't tell from the video, but this handle is not perfectly round. It's got flat spots. It's basically flat here and it's flat here, and there's several. It's almost like a hexagonal shape or flat spots in it. And you can get, as far as putting some heat on a fastener, you can get a tremendous purchase with this design of handle. So, what's your design philosophy with your handle? To be able to put a lot of torque on the fastener, which is primarily what the screwdriver is designed for, or is it so that it'll feel comfortable, so when you just hold it in your hand all day doing nothing, that it will be comfortable? Well, if the design philosophy is really being able to put some torque on the fastener, these handles actually do a really good job with that, and they've really grown on me. And in terms of comfort, you'll see the different sizes. I find that bigger one is probably not quite as comfortable as this medium size. Can't tell if that's one of the medium size ones. Yeah, that's medium size. Anyway, probably not quite as comfortable as some of the smaller sizes, in my opinion. But overall, they've grown on me, and I don't think they're super uncomfortable. I just think they're not quite as comfortable as some of like this Vessel brand that I'm going to be comparing it to in the future. But I do think in terms of function, it's probably superior in terms of how much torque I'm going to be able to put on something. So yeah, that's what I think of that. In terms of the bits themselves and long-term use and how they'll wear and all that, I'm relying more on the information that I've studied and read than my own personal use, because I haven't used these things for 10 years. But from all the reading I've done, people say they hold up exceptionally well and they're the cream of the crop in that regard. In terms of the fastener fit with the bits, I do have experience with that. I've gone around and toyed around with pretty much every toy and fastener I can find in my house, unscrewing things and screwing them back together to see what they feel like in the various sizes. And the fit is exceptional on these. Just like I mentioned with the Vessel brand, it's exceptional. Much better than what you're going to get with your standard screwdriver set at, Wally World from your Stanley screwdrivers or whatever. Another interesting aspect with these that I've noticed that some of the cheaper brands don't do is you can see this portion of this finish, this chrome plating or whatever, tinfoil plating, whatever you want to call it, they put on screwdrivers to protect them. They've taken some of that off the tip of the fastener. I've had several cheap sets of screwdrivers where they don't do that. The Phillips bit, so if you look at this Phillips, you can see here's my chrome plating. There is no plating on the end of that. I've had several cheaper sets where you put that in there to drive a fastener, and they've got the fastener sized a certain way, or the bit of that sized a certain way so that it will still fit the fastener with the plating over it. Well, when you start turning screws, it will strip that chrome plating chintzy material off, and all of a sudden you've got this really sloppy fit. You're not going to have that with this brand or with some of these. The Vessel brand, like I showed, they've got the same thing. They've removed all that off so that the hard use, this is going to protect the rest of the shank, and the hard use portion is they're not relying on that for the fitment of your fastener. So that's something I really like about them. But anyway, overall, I'm really impressed with the build quality. In terms of, are they worth the money? This is a very complete set. And as I mentioned with some of the other screwdrivers I've reviewed, I consider these to be like, if you don't do something stupid with them, heirloom quality. Like these could last generations and generations if they're not getting lost or stolen, or somebody's not doing something like way overboard abusive-wise with them. They're going to last an extremely long time. So if you use your screwdrivers a lot, if not having your screws get stripped out is like super crucial, like you're a professional or something like that doing that, or if you just want something that's going to be more likely to last the test of time, assuming, again, they don't get lost or stolen or whatever, that you could pass on to your kids or whatever, this is probably going to be a lot better quality than some of the other stuff that you're going to get. Is it worth it over like the Wiha brand that comes in a set that has the striking cap, or the Vessel brand, or any of those? That remains to be seen. And like I said, I'll be making a video in the future to talk about it. These are really expensive. Like I said, $165 or $170 for this set of 10 screwdrivers. I mean, you're looking at $16 to $17 a screwdriver. And yeah, that's pretty pricey. Anyway, but well, that concludes my overview or my review, and I understand like this is not as thorough as some people would probably like it to be, but understand I'm not a professional mechanic, so they don't get used every day, and also understand that in terms of me doing a 10-year long-term review, that's not really possible for me. At this point, this was more to help people who are in a similar situation where they're like, hey, I'm considering maybe upgrading or getting some different screwdrivers. I've noticed that there's these other brands out there. What's good, what's not. These are my impressions after having purchased them. I think they're worth it, and I'm happy to have them. I heard one guy put it in pretty plain terms the other day that I follow, and he said, when have you ever picked up a tool in your life and said, man, I wished I had a lower quality tool than this? That never happens. People almost never, at least for me, all of the more expensive, higher quality tools I bought, I'm always happy that I have them, and when I'm using them, they're a joy to use and all that kind of stuff. I never looked back and said, boy, I wished I had bought a tool that was, I wish this tool that fits this fastener really well, I had bought one that doesn't fit it very well and I stripped things out. So, the whole buy once, cry once mentality. And And certainly don't go into debt for anything, and don't be buying stuff that you can't afford. But if you're in a situation where it's like, hey, I maybe want to upgrade this because my other stuff's worn out, might be worth looking at something a little bit nicer. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave those in the comment section below. Have a nice day.